Huzzah, it's Friday. Okay, so let me put my earbuds in, make sure y'all can hear me. All good?
Oh, good.
Hot day. Great. Yeah. I like to wait until the last minute because I never trust these are going to last the whole class. So, okay. So go ahead. We're going to start with a rest assess before we do the hand treatment, because this is one of my very favorite things to do, is to do a rest assess before hand treatment and a rest reassess. In doing that, you really wow the bejesus out of your people, I think. So if you're teaching, give this one a go. Okay, so arms and legs extended, palms facing the ceiling. Let's see how we feel today. Oh, put mine off to the side. I still have my socks on. I'll take them off for the foot treatment when we stand. Okay. So taking a couple of breaths in here, just sense what you feel. I did a nice little map on myself earlier today, so I feel pretty good. So just tune into the shoulder girdle, the diaphragm, and the pelvis, and spend a little time micromanaging your thoughts with the shoulder girdle. Remembering that ideally we want to be below the shoulder blades, not on top of them. So notice if you feel more heavily weighted on the upper 1/3 portion of your back. And if you feel like you have edges of your shoulder blade digging in, notice if your shoulders feel rounded off the floor, if maybe your arms feel internally rotated. Tune into your neck curve space and notice if you actually feel like you don't have a neck curve today. And then just slowly turn your head from left to right. And I have to say, I had such a crick in my neck the last 2 days, and I just didn't take the time to really devote to just putting on my journey box and melting, but I did that this morning and now my neck pain is gone. So there is something to be said for not mindlessly melting, right? So with that mindfulness with our body sense, we're going to go down to the diaphragm and notice whether or not you have a small lumbar curve or if you've got a big wailing arch. So ideally we want that small lumbar pocket of space. So notice that on you and then tune into your pelvis. So ideally we want to be resting on two butt cheeks. So notice if instead you feel like you're on a bone or on one butt cheek more than the other. And I would say I feel a little bit more on my left butt cheek than my right. That's what I'm sensing right now. And same thing with backs of thighs. So ideally both evenly weighted to the floor. I feel like my left one is they're both touching, but the left one is touching a little bit more heavily. Backs of the knees ideally are off the floor, that's a space. So if you're prone to hyperextension, you might notice that. I get a sense of that with my left, not with my right. Are you seeing a trend? I got something going on with my left side. So same thing with that same idea in mind of noticing the outer 1/3 portion of the calves and the heels. Ideally, that's where we want to be weighted. So you want to notice if you're flopped out or turned in or combination of the two. I feel great on the right, not so much on the left. So that's my story. But just remember those four common imbalances. Number one, if you feel more up on the shoulder blades than below them. Number two, you got a big wailing arch rather than a small lumbar space. Number three, you're on bone instead of butt cheek. And number four, the backs of the thighs are one or both are off the floor. So just make a mental note of where you sense that in yourself today. And then draw that imaginary line down your center, tuning into your autopilot. I already let you all know my autopilot is making me feel like I'm more heavily weighted on my left side than my right. And I do get a sense that my left leg feels longer than my right. So tune into you with that as well. And then take a nice deep breath on into your body, really sensing how the breath enters and leaves your lungs. And then when you're ready, go ahead, bend your knees, roll to your side, come on up to sitting. We're going to do a mini softball hand treatment with extra spices. It's the way I always do it. I never just do the mini softball hand treatment. I just don't. I have to rinse up the arm. That's just me because of my neck issues. So let's do our two assessments here. Again, with the mini softball hand treatment, it's usually just a grip assess. So you could do that. Go ahead and grip and just notice how the integrity of your grip is today. Sometimes you got to close your eyes because this can be super elusive for some people. I know that when I do this in big groups of people who've never melted before, they're like, I don't know what you want me to feel. So even if you're noticing one, and there are times I'm not really sure either, right? Because you tend to project, well, I'm right-handed, I'm left-handed, or I've got a bum shoulder. So, but just kind of tune in and then put that down. So I like to do the wrist assess with everybody just to give them, and again, the rest assess, but the wrist assess is a good one because the minute you put your elbows and your forearms and your palms together, you really want to tune into that upper back and notice if it feels like it's just doesn't fit your body. And then see if you can raise and lower the arms. And it's really hard for me right now. I have like no range right now, but I worked out this morning too. And then open and close your hands. This is the wrist part of the wrist assessment. Noticing if you have any pain, if you find that range of motion, it's really tough on one side versus the other. And then see if you could drop them open. And ideally, we want to be in a perfect T. So if you feel like you're a little bubbled, you're in a W, you're in a Y, it's just showing you've got some stress in your arm line. So shake that out. Notice if your shoulders feel sore. And let's go ahead and do the treatment. So I'm going to start with one hand at a time, showing the other options. Sometimes I like to glide and shear more than once. So actually, for fun, let's just put in the center of the palm and just take a breath. Just acknowledging that we're tapping into our diaphragm here. Another breath, relaxing those shoulders, noticing immediately if you're tensing your upper back. I know I was for a second there. And then let's go into the glide. So I have my opposite hand on top. So I'm giving myself a little treatment, extra treatment hand. And it's not because we want to put a lot of pressure into our hand so much as controlling it. It will put a little extra pressure, but there's no need to crush the ball. We just really want consistent pressure as we go back and forth between the thumb pad and the pinky pad, preparing our tissue for going a little bit deeper when we go to shear it. So try it on the opposite hand. Same thing. Let's start with the dead smack center first and just take a couple of breaths into our diaphragm here. Relaxing those shoulders. And then go ahead and glide on the base of the palm. And just noticing if it's easier, harder, more tender on one side versus the other. No need to micromanage into it, just noticing what you feel. And then let's just see what it's like if we do it interlaced fingers and do it again and glide right here. Is this easier for you to do? I like to show it both ways for my people. I think it's always good to give options. Yeah, so that's another way to glide. And then we can shear. Since we're here, let's just do it. Pinning the ball in between our thumb pads and just doing our small little circles. We're going to shear a little bit more on the floor, but let's start it here. So I like doing it this way because it's quick and dirty and easy. You can do it when you're at a stoplight or in traffic in your car, and then you can do a finger rinse right on your thigh. That's how I do it. It's kind of fun. And if I can do that with my scrawny little fingers and thighs, anybody can do it, right? So let's do it one hand at a time. So if I'm here, left palm on the floor, right hand on top, and I just put a little bit of pressure in there. And now I want to think about kneading dough. Rather than doing circles, it's just a nice way to go. I love doing it this way. I even get up on my on the saddle joint. That's another reason why I really like doing it down here on the floor, because I can really get into that joint, which feels good. And again, you're not trying to crush it, although there's part of me that wants to crush it, but don't. You could always just do an indirect shear, just holding the ball still and opening and closing the thumb. You could do the same thing when the ball is in between your thumb pads and you just wiggle your two thumbs around. You could do that, do a little thumb war with yourself. It's kind of fun. And wait, because we always want to stop and pause and wait after we shear to just squeeze that fluid out. So when we let go, the fluid goes back into that local area. Let's do it on the opposite side. So same thing. We're just kneading that dough. I love this addition that Sue added a few years back. It's just a nice way to go. And again, getting up on that saddle joint, if that's something that you need to do. Or just opening and closing the thumb. And waiting. So now let's rinse it. I want to go up the side first, up the forearm first. So I'm going to get on my side and go all the way up to the elbow, trying to keep the hand as relaxed as possible. You don't want to put a lot of tension in that hand or in the wrist, just allowing consistent pressure from the fingertips all the way on up. And I like to think about getting on the pinky side, thumb side. I just do about 5, 6, 7, 8 passes, something like that. One more for me. And then you can swing around over to the other side. So it's fun to also combine a mini softball hand treatment with a forearm rinse. When you're doing a neck release sequence, you can kind of tuck it in there. It's a creative way to do both of those moves kind of simultaneously. I've done that before my classes. Maybe I could do that next week if you guys want. Let's do a couple more. And then the last one is a finger rinse. Well, not last, second to last, but the last rinse, right? So if you guys remember, I almost cut my finger off a few months ago before I went to London. When was that? In June? Gosh, that was in June. That was so long ago. Feels like it just happened. Anyway, it's really healed nicely. And of course, I credit hand treatment with helping me through that and just gently working the tissue on a regular basis. It's still a little numb on part of the scar tissue, but it's okay. I just keep moving it. I'm just grateful I didn't really damage myself. I'm on my other hand. I don't know about you. Making sure you're really getting on that pass position point number 4 on the base of the palm. Onto the wrist. It's just a great twofer. And I really, if you're noticing how I do this, I'm hinging forward in my body to do it. So I'm not compromising any shoulder joint stuff. And then let's go ahead and do our friction. I don't do this one on the floor. I always do it in between my hands. It's just easier. One more breath. Put that ball down and just kind of take a second to close your eyes and just notice if you get that sort of zip, 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 zippy feeling going on in your hands. Maybe you get a sense of a fluid exchange going all the way up your arms, which is beautiful. And then go back into your wrist assess first and notice, yep, I got more room in my upper back and I can now raise and lower my arms. I literally couldn't do this before. So it's incredible to see how quickly it works. Opening and closing the wrist, just notice if you have a little more freedom of movement in that joint. Less pain, opening the hands up and noticing if you get a little bit more of a T. Again, that could be a little elusive, but let's check the most elusive by the grip test. It's elusive to me. I shouldn't say that, for some people who really have arthritis and whatnot, but also noticing if people hitchhike when they do their grip assess, notice if they just really incorporate that again. So that's a good one, but let's see how our rest reassesses, because that's where the truth really lies. So coming on down, and what I find super compelling when I come back down is that my thighs come down from treating my hands. I am now evenly weighted on the backs of both my knuckles. Yeah, that's way better than I was. Well, I've still got a little funkiness going on the right side, but it's far better. I actually feel like I'm now evenly weighted on the outer 1/3 portion of my heels, my calves. It's just nuts. Like, how did that happen? I just treated my hands, and it just speaks to continuity, right? So if you turn your head from left to right, notice if you got any gunk out of your neck from doing that. That's always kind of a cool thing too. Yeah, so just tune into those 4 common imbalances, see what shifted and changed for you. I think it's awesome. I really do. Bend your knees, roll into your side, come on up to sitting, and we're going to come all the way up to standing. So I got to take my socks off, even though my feet are cold. And keep that ball with you, because we're going to start with a foot treatment. Just a mini softball foot treatment. That one I pretty much stay true to. I don't do anything different with that one. But go ahead and start with just a standing assessment, because we're going to do a whole standing sequence. So let's see how we're doing with that. So really micromanage yourself here, putting your feet side by side, making sure they're hip width apart, arms down at your sides, and just close your eyes for a second and tune into your footprint. And just notice if maybe even if you tend to melt your feet before your hands, you might notice that you feel a little differently now. So just notice the footprint, notice if you're uneven from left to right, notice if you're like gripping your toes. Start to scan up your legs to notice if you're clenching muscles, if you're locking out knees, squeezing butt cheeks, soften all that and notice how you get into a new normal. And then even notice how your arms are resting at your sides. I want you to notice if you get a sense that they feel even, or maybe one feels a little side bent, twisted, longer than the other. Just notice. And then go back down to your footprint, noticing if it feels like one foot is in front of the other, despite you putting them exactly side by side. Don't try to change it, just notice. And then go ahead and lift all 10 toes up for a second and notice what happens when you remove that basis of support. Take our toes for granted for sure. And notice if you kind of go falling backwards a little bit, but then take a nice breath on in, and on that exhalation, drop those toes down and open your eyes and notice if you had that drift forward when you did that. Just showing the neurological communications a little off, but we're going to fix it. So go ahead and grab that ball and you decide which side you want to start on. I'm going to start on my left. So maybe if you want to do that with me, I invite you to. And I'm going to find the smack dab center of my left foot, and I'm going to ease my compression onto that. And I'm going to ease on back. So my feet are side by side, and I'm gently easing compression into that, even though I'm on a mat, which is on a carpet, which has padding underneath it. I still feel a little sensitivity in the center of my foot. So you don't have to do this on a hardwood floor or hard floor. So find that point of tolerable pressure and move your joints around your center of gravity. And this is just a great way to enhance that communication from head to toe. So if you found that you did have that drift forward, this is a great solution just to heighten communication so that your joints talk to each other and you don't fall down when you walk. Let's take a step back with that opposite foot. You're going to decompress the weight of your foot, and I want you to move it away from you so that the ball ends up just before the heel at position point number 5. And just bend your knee and lean into it to put some compression on that spot. And then I want you to ease off it, taking a breath. And then exhale, step on it, and maybe take a focused breath into that area. And then we're going to even our stance between our left and right foot, and we're going to start our glide. So nice and even, consistent pressure as we glide from one side to the other. I like to say it's like, you want to think like you're putting peanut butter on toast. Your foot is the bread. I'm sorry, your foot is the knife. Your ball is the bread, right? And then it's just weird little metaphors to help our people, right? Work over the heel and then work your way back before the heel. And then once you get there, I want you to put a little bit more pressure onto the ball, and I want you to tighten the wiggle. So now the ball doesn't move, but the ball is now a tool to mobilize the tissue on your foot. To really get that nice little subtle movement, actually packs a punch with stimulating the cells of connective tissue because they're microscopic, right? They don't need a big thing. And then stop, compress, and wait, taking a breath in. And now we're going to rinse it. So you could kind of do a little combo here where you want to think about compressing onto the big toe mound as you then go down the foot. And you're going to step off the ball and give the back leg a break. So it's like you're going for a walk. I advise that you start with the foot kind of underneath your hip. That way you don't end up out in the middle of your mat. But if you go with the ball, go with the direction of the ball, you will succeed. I'm going to do a couple more. I'm on my pinky, but I'm going to do a couple more after that because it's just nice to add a couple more. Just like with the forearm rinse, you could do 5, 6, 7, 8 rinses or so. No big deal. And then go ahead and give yourself some friction. Nice and light, vibratory, tickling the bottom of the foot. Take a breath in, letting it go. And then let's put our feet side by side, do a little mid-foot check-in. Taking a second here to close our eyes and just tune into our footprint, noticing the difference between the right and the left foot. I mean, I feel not just grounded in my foot, but my entire leg feels connected to the earth, and my right side feels like it's going to float away. That's not good. Let's do the other side. So, but really cool, right? To feel it all the way up there. So identify the center of your opposite foot and give it a little pressure. And you want to go ahead and pitter pat back and forth, going back and forth between the two. I think I'm okay enough to take my sweater off. Okay, so once you find that point of tolerable pressure, let's go ahead and move our joints and our center of gravity. Oh, And then come on back to a standing point, taking a step back with that opposite foot. Decompress your foot and move it away and put that ball at position point number 5 just before the heel, giving it a little press as you lean into it. And then decompress that weight. Take a breath in, exhale, step onto it, but then take a small sip of air into that area. And then even your stance, and let's go ahead and glide. It's funny that it's Friday, it's the weekend. I should be all about pepping your step and like, all right, let's party it up. But I'm like, let's take it down. Let's mellow out, right? I don't know why. To me, the end of the week is, the end of the work week, right? And then work it over that heel. And then work your way back to the center or to the before the heel. And then give it a little press and tighten your wiggle. Do that shear, using the ball as a tool to move the flesh against the bone. Really, the skin against the plantar fascia against the bone, right? And then compress and wait. And then let's go ahead and rinse it out. So again, starting just underneath the hip, you want to compress on each knuckle as you go down the foot and step off the ball. Compress and down. Compress and down. Consistency is key. Couple more. And then go ahead and get your friction on. A little friction here. Noticing how it feels on this side, but let's go give some love back over to the other side just because we can. But then always go back to that opposite foot. Taking a breath in. Give me one more. Get rid of that ball, you won't need it anymore. And then let's do a side by side again, just tuning into the footprint, noticing what you feel as you do this, yeah? Just sense it. Now from here, let's do a little, let's do a releve. So I want you right here, I want you to think about pushing your mat away from you, right? That's kind of step number 1, that's key. And as you do that, you might notice how your hips engage, like you can actually touch your hips. And as you push outward, you'll feel the lateral hip engage. And that's important because that's what we're going to be keying into in a little bit. But I also want you to think about your tailbone, do a nice slight lift. And as you push out, you're going to come up. Thinking about going from the pinky to the big toe. So the goal here is to not shift our weight forward, not to tuck our pelvis, not to pitch forward, right? And then come on down. We're going to do that 3 more times. And I'll give you a side view. So what we don't want is to like go wah, throw our hips forward or pitch forward. You want to think about pushing out to come up. Tailbone is slightly lifted and I'm going straight up to the ceiling. Holding and then coming down. We got 2 more here. Thinking about going out to come up and pausing at the top and down. And the last one for the reintegration where you're going to go out to come up. You're going to pause at the top and come down. Now we're going to go for the pattern where you're going to go up and down for 1, up and down for 2, up and down for 3, up and down for 4. So just remember what that felt like. If that felt like it was easy to do, hard to do. And then go ahead, grab your band. So no, we're not going to start with monster side step. We're going to start with some upper body. So we got our hands and our feet all nice and hydrated so that we can move on with this and do our neuro strength with some good neurological communication and hydration in our tissue. So you want to put this band underneath your pubic bone, wrap it around behind your booty. And when you come back, I want you to think, I'm going to go over my greater trochanter because if I go right on top of it, it bothers me. And then you're going to crisscross it in the front so that the left hand holds the right band and the right band holds the left. So I still have my arms kind of close to me, but what I want you to do is just punch the arms out for a second. And what I want you to notice is that your wrists are nice and strong, right? But we're going to prepare ourselves here a little bit. So you could think about drifting the elbows back behind you and punching them forward. And you notice the whole time I'm doing this, my wrists are nice and strong. You're not going to break the wrist. You don't want to put, like, you're not doing a super grip in your hands. You can almost even just anchor it down with your thumb. You don't have to actually grip. So then you're going to go up one more time, but then you're going to pause before your elbows get to your body. You're going to make sure that they don't touch your body. So to start with this, we're going to prep even more. We're going to keep everything still. The only thing that's going to move is the elbow. The elbow is going to float up toward the ceiling. So the movement is actually just happening in the shoulder joint. And then we're going to come back and you're going to think about the elbows coming in toward that X that is made by the band. And then we're going to float the elbows up again and come on back. We got 2 more here. Don't forget to breathe. Tailbone is slightly lifted, right? Don't want to be super tuck in here. And then let's do 1 more. You're just floating it up. And if you're like, I'm already exhausted and you're feeling it in your neck, I want you to drop the band and just watch the rest of this whole thing. Okay, so now we're going to go into external rotation right here. You're just going to open up and you're going to pause. And then you're going to come back to parallel and you're going to wait. So the movement, my arms are still out in front of me. You're going to open up into external rotation. You're going to wait. And you're going to come back to parallel and you're going to wait. Notice nothing else in my body moves, only my shoulder joint. Open up into external rotation and wait. Back to parallel and wait. Last one for the reintegration. Open it on up and wait. Back to parallel and wait. Now we go for the pattern where you go out and in for 1, out and in for 2, out and in for 3, out and in for 4. Add on challenge, drop the band if you need to, open it on up, and you're going to punch that arm out and bring it back in for 1. You're going to punch it out and bring it back in for 2, out and bring it back in for 3. Last one, out, bring it back in for 4, back to parallel. Let go of the band, but I want you now to go into internal external rotation. Internal external rotation. And just notice what you feel. So if you're feeling like your shoulders are still on fire, good for you. That's showing that the mechanism is fired. If you felt that all on your neck, you were not in the right pathway, and probably a good idea to do that instead on the floor, or try it seated, or try it in quadruped. There's so many options. Okay, so we're going to move on and we're going to do shoulder floats just up to 90 though. So if you take your band, we're going to start with the right arm and you just lay it on the, like you're draping it, right? Like you're in a fashion show and you're draping this gorgeous piece of material, and you're going to give a step on the end of the band. And then you're going to put the other foot next to it. And I would give yourself a little, not a super wide stance, but one that's enough where you could shift your weight easily from left to right and not feel too cramped. So once you're here, I'm holding the band in my right hand, but I'm going to go meet it with my left and drop my right. And wherever my hand lands, that's where I'm going to get the band. So I just kind of crumple it up, stick it in my hand. Now I got a nice little handle for myself. So pro tip, you want to make sure your arm is more, if you see my hand is more in the front aspect of my thigh. If it's all the way out to the side, that's not where I want you to be. I want you to be more on the front of the thigh. And then we want to make sure we always have tension in the band, no slack, okay? And just from here, we're just going to start by pulling that band up to 45 degrees and we're going to pause. So Elizabeth, that's a little too high. I want you to bring it down into 45, beautiful. And then you're going to let that band pull you on back. And again, there's no slack in the band. So if you have slack, bring that arm a little bit more in front of you to get rid of it. Let's bring it on up to 45 again. It's small. You're not going up that high at all. And it's just to get supraspinatus to fire. And then you're going to bring that arm back down and you're going to wait. We got 2 more here. So up to 45 and you're going to wait. And you're going to let the band pull you back on down. You guys look great. You want to make sure you're not side bending. You're not twisting in your torso. You're going to bring it on up to 45 and you're going to wait. The only thing moving is the shoulder joint. Elbow is slightly soft, and then let that come on down. Now you may need to let some slack out of the band here, but if not, let's see if we can bring it on up to 90, pulling it up and pausing. Ooh, that's a challenge for me on this side. And let that band pull you back on down. Yeah, I'm going to ease up on it a little bit. And then we're going to come on up again to 90. We're still reintegrating here and back on down. We got 2 more here before we do our shift and lift. You're going to bring it on up to 90 and you're going to pause. And you're going to bring it on down. Last one, we're going to bring it on up to 90 and we're going to wait and pause. And then as we come down, I want you to shift your weight over onto that left side and bring your hands into the center like you got a top hat and cane, you're about to sing a song. And then there's no twisting. So if you're twisting, nay, nay, I want the whole torso forward. You're going to shift and lift and bring that arm up to 90 and pause, making sure you're not bending. And then you're going to shift back to the center. And then you're going to shift up and you're going to shift and lift, making sure you're not twisting. It's like you're sliding between two panes of glass. We got two more here. Shift and lift up. If this weight is too much, just drop the band and follow along. Here we go. Last one. We're going to bring it on up and pause. And now we're going to come back to center. We're going to pass the band off and we're going to shift and lift without the band for one and back. So up. So Elizabeth, you're kind of going in the opposite direction with your dance steps here. There you go. So you want to go in the direction of the arm, right? Your body. Yeah, there you go. And back. Two more. Bring it on up and back. And then the last one, you want to hold it on up and you want to start to bounce your imaginary helium balloon, which is going to come bouncing in front of you. And then you're going to bounce it back. And if you're like, oh my God, my arm is on fire, it weighs 400 pounds, then you know you did it right. You got the reintegration going on in the mechanism of the shoulder joint. And then we come on back. And when we get back out to the side, I want you to think about pushing against an imaginary object, and then you're going to grab it and you're going to pull it behind you. And you're going to push it away, but then you're going to say, no, I actually want you, come back here. And you're going to push it, you're going to grab it, you're going to pull it. Last one, you're going to push it, grab it, pull it, and let it go. So you might notice, let's see if it worked on me. I have a little more lift, a smidge of a lift in my right, more than my left. So let's try the left side. This one is a challenging one. It's not even full circumduction. Just going up to 90 is enough. And listen, if you can only do the 45, that is fine. So you judge your body according to your needs. And if you need to tap out after just doing the first set, that's totally fine. So same rules apply. You want to make sure the left hand goes down and you're going to grab the band wherever you find it and gather it up. That way you have evenness from left to right. And again, making sure you are on the front of the thigh and not on the side. And then we're going to go ahead on up to 45 and we're going to hold it. And then we're going to let that band pull us back down. We're going to bring it on up to 45 and we're going to pause. So not too high. The temptation to go up to 90 is huge, but we're going to do that in a second. Going up to 45 and wait. And you could do this with a 2-pound weight, by the way, if doing it with the band is too much. Last one, we're going to go up to 45 and we're going to pause, making sure you're not breaking the wrist. You have a nice strong wrist as well. And then back on down. So now we're going to bring it on up to 90. We're going to bring it up to 90 and we're going to pause. And then we're going to let that band pull us back down to the start. 3 more. Bring it on up and pause. You're not bending in your torso. Torso strong. The only thing moving is your shoulder joint. That is lifting the arm. Bring it on up and pause. And if you're shaking, that's good. Come on back down. It's not a bad thing. Last one, you're going to bring it on up to 90. You're going to pause. And then as you come down, you want to shift over onto the right side. And again, like you're about to sing, putting on the Ritz with the top hat and cane. And then you're going to shift and lift over to the left. And you're going to hold and then come on back. 3 more. No twisting. Shift and lift up and back. Shift and lift up, pausing, strong wrist, no turning or side bending. Last one, shift and lift on up. And then back, you're going to pass off the band and we're going to shift and lift without it for 4 and 3 and 2. It's like a nice little dance. And 1, you're going to hold it out this time and start with your bouncing your Imaginum Healing Balloon. This is where the move gets its name. We are floating the shoulder, right? Coming back out. We don't want to just let the elbow be soft in this one. If you had a helium balloon, yeah, that's nice. You want it to be nice and soft. And then on your way back out, once you get there, you want to push against that imaginary thing. You want to grab it and pull it behind you. You want to push it, then grab it and pull it behind you. Push it, grab it, pull it behind you. Last time, push, grab, pull, and let it go. Now I'm curious, after doing that, we just did upper body stability, right? Do a quick little recheck into your releve. You might find that stabilizing the shoulder girdle allowed your pelvis to sit a little bit better so that when you go to do your releve, you actually have a little bit more neurological control. It's kind of an interesting thing. Just kind of notice And you might be like, not really, Amanda, I don't get that at all, but just try anyway, a couple more. Oops, I almost fell over, and then up, and then back down. Let's really give it a good chance to get better. By getting that band again, we're gonna move on and do monster side step. So if you haven't done this one before, this will be fun for you. So you're gonna put the band down with the logo in front of you on the floor in the center. And I want you to put one foot on the side, either side of the logo, making sure your toes are free though, if that's possible for you. Everybody's feet are different. I have long, skinny toes. I had an old boyfriend say that he used to call them baby carrots. So I'm making sure all my baby carrots are on top of the band. And then I'm going to give myself a little extra pressure by just kind of sickling a foot in and pushing against the band. So I stretch the band a little bit more in between my feet. And then crisscross the band, and you want to grab it around your shins, mid shin, or below your knees. And then you're going to bring it on up, and you can either just hook yourself here, or if you're like me, you want to save your hands and you wrap it around, and the band will kind of stick to itself. Okay, so we're going to get onto our right foot first. And just remember, this is more about what's staying stable, not what's moving. So let's see if we can identify the big toe mound, the outside the foot, center of the right foot. Really think about you have a little tilt here. Shoulders are relaxed. And I want you to see if you can find your footprint and then decompress the way the left as you push it against the band, right? So when you do that and you're kind of standing nice and tall in that right leg, you might find that your right hip starts to burn on fire. Good for you. You did it right. Put that down. Let's try it on the opposite side. Find the left foot, big toe mound outside the foot, center of the heel. And again, nice little floating tailbone as you decompress the right foot and push it sideways against that band. So you're pushing it away from you. And just doing that and doing a little bounce, a little forward thing, you might find that you really get that band or that hip to fire. So now we're going to do a little bit more with this one, add some more flavors. You're going to do the same thing, pushing against the left, right band. But now you're going to push against the band and tap with the foot. And then you're going to bring that left foot in and tap it again, standing nice and tall on that right foot. It's about what's staying stable, pushing out and tapping. Bring it in and tap. Two more. You're going to push out and tap in. Last one, you're going to tap out. You're going to tap in, and you're just going to settle back to the center. We're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So you want to really find that left footprint, and then you're going to decompress the right foot and push against that band and tap out, and then tap in. You're going to push out and tap out, and then you're going to tap in. Standing tall on that left foot, tap out, tap in. Last one, you want to tap out, tap in, and now both feet come down. Now we're going to do the walk of the monster side step. So you're going to find that right footprint. You're going to push against that left band and really give it a push, because you're going to step forward, heel toe. And then we're going to do the same thing on the opposite side. So find your left footing as you push outward. Heel toe on the right. And then we're going to do it again, pushing, heel toe, and then finding that left, pushing, heel toe. See if you can bring both feet together. Now we're going to go backwards. You're going to push the right away and go kind of on a diagonal and go toe heel. And you're going to push with the left and go toe heel. You're going to push with the right, toe heel. And you're going to push with the left, toe heel. Do it again, coming forward, pushing out, heel toe. Find that footprint, push, heel toe. Find that footprint, push, heel toe. Last one, push, heel toe. Now let's go backwards. You're going to push, toe heel. Think about going on a diagonal, push, toe heel. If you're not pushing out, it's going to roll up against all in your foot. Last one, you're going to push, toe heel. Now get the feet side by side again, and we're going to do some skating. Let's go over to the left and over to the right, keeping tension in between the feet. Over to the left, over to the right, over to the left, over to the right. Last one, over to the left. Oh my God, over to the right. Now open them both up. Pause, pause, pause. Let go of the band. And walk around your room for a second and just kind of revel in the magic of your hips being on fire. If you did that one right, the left hip, it actually feels like the tissue around the greater trochanter is sore, right? It feels good. Take a sip in. Oh, shoot, sorry. So one more time, releve. So now it's really going to make sense. If you think about pushing the mat away from you, you're going to be like, oh boy, there it is. And then you're going to start to rise on up to your releve and notice if that's easier to do, if you feel like you have a little bit more control. So that's really a game changer, right? Is getting the lateral hip nice and stabilized and activated. That's really going to improve your releve. Let's try one more. You're going to go out to come up. And you're going to come down. Beautiful. Come on down on the floor and let's rest reassess just because we can. So arms and legs extended, palms facing the ceiling. Noticing what you sense after doing all that. So some of you might find that the way your where you're resting on your calves and your heels is completely changed, because now you got some reintegration into those lateral hips. You might find that the femurs are sitting more solidly into the socket and you're not flopped out to the side, if that's your story, right? But then really just kind of go back up to the top, notice your shoulder girdle, because we did all that awesome shoulder girdle work, and notice how you feel with that. Notice if you feel more evenly weighted from left to right, if you feel more below the shoulder blades, maybe your back curve has come down. You just have that nice little lumbar curve. Notice if you're now on the butt cheeks instead of bones. And yeah, back to thighs. Like I feel mine nicely on the floor here. Turn your head from left to right and see if that helped or hurt your neck. And if you feel like you got a little bit more stress going on in the neck, it probably is because you were not in the right pathway for those upper body moves. So let's come on to our sides. I'm going to start on my right side. We're going to go into inner thigh, glide and shear. We're going to do inner thigh lift today. So I have to put my socks back on. So give me 1 second. Little Miss always cold. Not even that cold here, but I'm always cold. Okay. So we're going to start with inner thigh glide and shear. So I'm going to put my left leg on top of the roller, making sure that the top of the roller is turned away from you. You still have that nice perpendicular top hand on the floor, and just start your glide. Remember, you want to have the whole body fall forward and just enough to have the roller creep up a couple inches. You don't need to go so far forward that it goes halfway up your leg. That's not the point. We like to just do small little batches to really help our tissue. And you want the whole torso to move forward, because you don't want to move just from the hip or the low back. You'll end up with some bad torsion in your joint. You don't want that. So find a spot where you need to shear. I feel like I could do it everywhere. I'm pretty tender down here today. Get smaller and smaller. And then what I like to do is flex the foot, and then I'll bend and straighten that knee. And then raise and lower that foot. Or go on into my cross friction, just kind of dragging the flesh. Just really twisting it around the bone. And then extend that on out and wait. And then let's decompress the weight of the leg and pull that roller up about mid-thigh. And then we're going to do the whole beautiful thing again, just falling forward and pushing away. You're going to fall forward and push away. Fall forward, push away. Last one, falling forward and pushing away. And then let's go ahead and shear it. Bending and straightening the knee, raising and lowering the foot, flipping over the tissue. Ah! So I like the cross friction. I don't do that as much. And then extend on out and wait. And let's switch sides. I like to get all juiced up before we go reintegrating this tissue. So same thing, this time right leg is on top of the roller, right hand on the floor, and we're gonna let that whole body fall forward, and we're gonna use that top hand to push us away. And we're gonna stay on this side for inner thigh lift, and we're just gonna have to make a micro adjustment with our hip positioning. But for now, I'm kind of on the front of the thigh of my left side. just information, just kind of giving you an idea of where I am. So find a spot where you need to shear. And then go ahead and do it. You pick which shear you want to do. I'm going to do all three, even though I've got a lot of flippy tissue this week. I need to journey box melt more often, right? Melted journey box. There you go. Go on a journey with melt. So many things. You could make it into a class. The only thing is you can't really here. Everybody would have to have their own journey box. Go ahead and pull it on up. But if you do it live, then you have your journey box. So Tony, I can't remember if you came to one of my evening classes where I had that thing going. That's what got me all hooked on it, Sue's journey box. Oh, so really preparing our tissue here as we get ready for inner thigh lift. And then go ahead and pause and get your shear on. You pick which one. And then go ahead and get your cross friction. Extend on out and wait. Okay, so now to get into this proper positioning for inner thigh lift, you're gonna have the roller out in front of you, but see how if you notice right now, if you take your hands and find your ASIS, and it's practically on the floor, right? So we wanna get it off the floor, and the best way to do that is to use your top foot to kind of help push your hip under. You wanna scoop it under so that you're trying to think of getting on your left butt cheek, right? But you're not really. You're trying to get the greater trochanter off the floor. It'll hit the floor a little bit, but as long as we can try to do our best with it, that's good. So now you're going to take your top foot, arch of it, and put it on top of your roller. Now your knee is way off. And what you don't want to do is go toward the roller. You want to bring the roller to you and then rest the knee on. Now I'm in super hip flexion here and I don't like that. So I'm first going to move my leg down a little bit. My foot's going to fall off, but I want my hip to open up a little bit more. So I'm going to push the whole roller down. That's just going to open up my hip a little bit. Kind of a fun little trick. Okay. So now what you want to think about is having your hand on your waist, because where we're moving here is we're going to lift our bottom leg on up. So first, let's start with our tilt. Let's get our pelvic in good positioning. You can think about stacking it, and stacking it is a good one. If you think about reaching the hip, you're also going to think about reaching the bottom leg. So I want you to take a breath in. I want you to find your core, and I want you to think about reaching and lifting that bottom leg. And notice if your if your waist really contracts. So you're moving from something other. So drop that down. Let's try it again. Again, tilt stack. And instead of a roll, it's more opening up the hip. And then you're going to take a breath in. You're going to think about reaching that bottom leg long, and you're going to bring it on up. Now, if you still contract it a little bit, that's okay. We can unwind it a little bit. I now want you to bring that leg and the bottom leg toward the roller so that the shin it's going to hit my heel, like it just touched my other foot. So from here, this is where we're going to be. So bring it up a little bit more. So much so that you want to think about your greater trochanters off the floor. This is our starting position. So you really want to make sure you're reaching that top hip, you're reaching the leg, you're going to take a breath on in and make sure that top leg isn't digging into the roller. Exhale, and you're going to reach and lift it up, and you're going to pause. And you're going to come back to that parallel starting position, and you're going to pause. Exhale, reach and lift and hold. And ideally, you are not feeling a thing in the waist, and back to parallel and hold. We got two more here for reintegration. You're going to think about reaching and lifting. Top knee is light. Top knee is light. And back to parallel and pause. Last one for reintegration. You're going to reach, and you're going to lift, and you're going to pause. And now we're going to go for the pattern where you're going to go all the way down. You're going to tap, and you're going to reach and lift. And again, if you're doing this one right, you set yourself up right, there's absolutely no movement. It's not coming from the waist at all. Reaching, lifting. We got one more here. You're going to come down, you're going to tap, you're going to reach and lift. Can you bring it up a little bit higher? Maybe a little bit higher still. And let's pulse it for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Hold it and let it go. Let's try the opposite side. Oh, that's so hard, but so necessary, especially for knees. Sorry, this thing keeps coming out of my tiny ear hole. Okay. So another way you can get into this, I'll just show you. So if I'm sitting up, right, and I have my leg I'm about to work, I'm just sitting on kind of like the back part of my booty. And if I think about getting kind of on the side of it, but not too much, right? And I just go down from here. That's about where you want your pelvis to be, so that you're more on the back side of the hip. Greater trochanter and ASIS are off the mat. They're like up here. And then again, you're going to take that top leg, you're going to put the arch of the foot on there, and your knee is not going to touch it. You have to bring the roller to you to allow that to happen. I'm way too hyperflexed here. I'm going to move my leg down first. My foot's going to fall off. I like that. That's actually a good position for me. And I'm going to push that roller down to open up my hip. So I don't want hyperflexion in here. Now, if you find that you're a little too off, you can micro adjust your pelvis here a little bit. And you can do exactly what we did before, or you could give yourself a little bit of a help by bringing the bottom leg toward the roller to start. And that'll minimize some of that flexion or that contraction in the waist. I like to do it the hard way. That's just me. Now, if you're finding at any time during this move, you're digging your top leg into the roller, you use your top hand to help minimize that. So let's figure it out. Let's put our hand on our waist. We're going to do our tilt. We're going to do our stack. And again, the hip is already kind of opened up, but if you want to think about that a little bit more, I like to think about that reach. And I'm going to take a breath in. I'm going to find my core. I'm going to reach that bottom leg low. Long, not low. And I'm going to bring it on up. And I'm actually okay. And then I'm going to swing it toward my top foot. I'm going to take another breath on in, and I'm going to bring it up a little bit higher, and this is going to be my starting position. So again, tilt stack and make sure that hip is nice and open. The top leg is not digging into the roller. You'll make sure that's light. Take a breath on in. On the exhalation, you want to think about reaching and lifting and pausing. And for some of you, flexing the foot might help you. Think about finding the energy through your heel. Back to neutral and wait. We got 3 more here for reintegration. Breath on in. Reaching and lifting. This is my tough side. So this one is a real mind bender for me. Back to neutral and wait. 2 more. Reaching and lifting. And back to parallel. Last one for the reintegration. Exhaling. Reaching and lifting and holding. So now we're going to go for the pattern. You're going to bring that leg all the way down. You're going to tap it, but don't fall apart. Keep it active. You're going to reach and lift, making sure you're not coming from the waist. And come all the way down. You're going to tap it. You're going to reach and lift it. 2 more. You're going to tap it, reach it and lift it. Last one. We're going to tap it, reach it and lift it. Can you bring it up a little bit higher? And let's pulse it out for 4, for 3, for 2, for 1. Hold it, 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 and let it go. Oh, come onto your back. Thank God that's over. Let's cool it down a little bit. Not really. We still have more work to do. So let's just do back and thigh. I like to start with both legs, just letting the heels drag on the floor, twisting the flesh around the bone. Love passive shears because they require very little effort. I'm going to let one leg relax. You can actually bend it completely and use that kind of as an anchor as you open and close the opposite leg. And gosh, my right inner thigh is really like, it's really buzzing from doing that. And I'm going to switch sides. Yeah, my left one too. But my right one is really, it seems to be my sleepy side. So it requires a lot more thought, even after all these years, right? It just is. I've got a serape thing going on. I know Tony and I were talking about that on Wednesday. And then wait. And let's move it down to about mid-thigh. Do it again. Ay, mama. Hiya, mama. My hamstrings are really sore. I think the workouts that I've been doing have been kind of lower body heavy and a lot of straight leg deadlifts and like stuff with the stability ball where you do the hamstring curls with the stability ball are just really tough. It's kind of like the rolling bridge, but with a ball. And then weight. Let's hit one more spot just above the knee and try it there. I'm so sore here. And wait. And then push it down to the calf. And let's start with both. Let's start with both legs, where you're just kind of gliding over to one side, glide as you go, and glide on over to the other side. I like to take our time gliding our calves here because there's usually so much gunk in here. You don't want to go in too quick, right? So let's try one leg at a time. Let's cross the left ankle over the right and just do a little glide in here, making sure that right foot is completely relaxed, the ankle is relaxed. And find a spot where you want to shear. I'm just going to go right in the center here where it's the least offensive. And you could start with mobilizing your ankle, either doing circles or pointing and flexing the foot. You can rock the leg left to right, but that feels terrible to me. So I'm going to do my cross friction where I just drag the flesh left to right. And wait. Push that roller down to the lower part of that same foot or same leg and do the same thing. So just taking some time to like roller pin this one out. Although you're not pushing hard, you're just, the weight of the leg is enough. And if the weight of the leg is too much, you take it off and you bend it and put it behind the roller. You figure out where you're going to shear and go ahead and do it. You pick which way you want to shear, whether you want to do the mobilization of the ankle, or you want to rock, or you want to drag, or you want to do all three. That's fine too. And wait. And then pull that roller back up, but this time we're putting the left calf on, crossing the right ankle over the left. And if you need to kind of shim your booty up, put your right hand underneath your right butt cheek. That'll get you more on the lateral aspect of that calf, or do it the opposite way where you slide the left hand underneath the left butt cheek. It gets you more on the inside medial aspect of that calf. I'm just going to stay right here. So find a spot to shear and go ahead and do it. You pick which shear you want to do. Oh my goodness. I don't know if my room here is like the best workout space, you know. I'm not sure the floor is awesome, even though I wear shoes. Go ahead and push that down to the lower calf. I just find that like I melt all the time. I do my feet, and yet my calves are always like, you're just gnarly. I did go running earlier this week though, and I went for a walk with my husband this morning, so that could be it. Feels nice. I love having this to come to. How lucky we are to know this method, right? Get smaller and smaller. Let's go ahead and shear it. Egads. And wait. And then I'm going to put both lower limbs on here and just do a little glide and a shear one more time. So we started at the top and we're finishing it at the bottom. It's also just me wanting to do both sides at the same time so it feels even. Because I'm getting a little more OCD the older I get. Okay, let's rinse it out. So come on up and let's rinse it out for reals. So this map is a little bit different from the one I did on Wednesday, mostly because I completely forgot to do the rebalance with the core work. Anyway, let's go up the inside and down the back. It was kind of a happy accident. So I'm like, yeah, let's do something different today. Up the inside, down the back. One more time on that right calf. That's where I am. And then just kind of kick it on up to your inner thigh and do the same thing going up the inside and down the back. Up the inside, down the back. One more time. Up the inside, down the back, and then just ding it on over to the other side. Going up the inside of the left, down the back. Up the inside, down the back. Up the inside, down the back. And one more, let's go up the inside, down the back. Kick it on up to that upper leg, same thing. One more. Let's go up the inside and down the back. And you know what? While we're here, I want you to hop on up on top of your roller. And let's just do a little seated compression just because we're here. So my hands are behind me, right? So I'm going to put my hands nice and wide behind me. And I'm going to start to tuck my pelvis. And I'm going to get onto my tail triangle. And I'm going to do my little glide here. So if you're doing this one right, you've got very light feet and very light hands. And the weight of the pelvis is on top of the roller and your abdomen is engaged, right? This is a little bit of an ab workout here, right? So we're just gliding up and down the sacrum. And then you could tip your knees over slightly to the left and glide on that left SI joint. And then come on back to center. And then tip it off to the right to get on the right SI joint. And then come on back to center, take a focused breath in as you sit all the way tall on top of your roller. And let's glide over the sit bones. So you glide over those sit bones, just kind of assessing and noticing if you feel like you have one sit bone getting ahead of the other one. And if you keep your big toe mound on the floor, it's a nice way to strengthen your arches too, right? And then we're going to come back, have our sit bones on the heel side, the foot side of the roller. I'm going to bring my feet and my knees together, and I'm going to put my left hand on my knees and tip on over onto the right. And that way I am on my right butt cheek. My right hand is actually behind the roller, angled away, but the pressure of my hip, again, on top of the roller. So if you're finding your shoulders going up into your ear, I want you to reconfigure how you are sitting atop your roller. So find an area that is giving you a little bit of issue here, get smaller and smaller, and go ahead and clam that knee. Or you can straighten it on out and you can roll over the hip. It's another way to go too. And wait. And that right foot's going to meet the left. And I want you to slide down like you're falling off the roller, and you're going to end up on your right forearm. I'm going to twist myself around so you can see what I'm talking about. So now I want you on that lateral hip, which this is going to feel really nice after doing monster side step. So we're doing hydration after we did that move, right? I mean, we did the hydration with the foot treatment, but now we're actually directly hydrating this tissue. Yeah, because that works too, right? Ah, feels nice. So you could go a little bit more on the front part of your hip here, or you can lean back a little bit and get more on the sacral part, but don't get on your sacrum. But find a spot to shear, get smaller and smaller, and you can shear it by clamming. We got 3 options here. Clamming. We're extending that leg on out and rolling over the hip. Or you can do a little cross friction here where you drag the flesh. You think about coming forward and going back, coming forward and going back, and wait. And then take a breath in, exhale, find your core and push yourself back up, sitting up tall. Don't let your shirt get sucked under the roller. Same thing, we're gonna find our sit bones are on the foot side of the roller, right hand goes on the knees, and we're gonna tip on over to the left, and we're gonna get onto that deep hip on the left side. So notice if you feel more tension on this side or not. My goodness. And then find your spot to shear, get smaller and smaller, and go ahead and do it, clamming that knee. I found that my shoulder was going up into my ear because I was uncomfortable on that hip. Not a good thing. Extend that leg on out and roll over the hip. Now you could do cross friction here as long as you are as far away from the back of your hip as possible. You could cross friction here. I typically don't. And then you're going to wait. And then that left foot is going to meet the right, and you're going to ooze on off that roller like you're falling off in slow motion and get on that forearm on the left side, and you're going to get into the glide here. Oh, I love this one because I love all the real estate of the side hip. The side hip is just, there's a lot of it. So you can really explore this tissue. Will you affect the deep hip too by being here on the side? Sure, everything's connected. Remember, it's all one piece. There are no layers, there are no parts. It's all connected, right? It's all made from the same stuff, but it's nice to get specific. Get smaller and smaller, and let's go ahead and shear it. You can clam. Extend that bottom leg on out and roll over that leg. Do your cross friction, dragging. And waiting. So I want you to slide off and put that roller around your upper back. We're just going to hit a couple spots on the upper back for a little glide, shear, and rinse. So we're just going to stick here because it feels nice, right? After all that work, again, we're kind of doing the compression after the fact. You can always compress before you do your neuro strength, but sometimes it's fun to explore and flip the map, right? And see how you do. But I do like to get some neurological signaling and hydration into the tissues beforehand. So at a minimum, I like to do the hands and feet. So find a spot where you want to shear, get smaller and smaller. Tucking your pelvis, placing it back down onto the floor, curling forward in the ribs. So no yanking on your head. And then go ahead and do your side bends. And wait, breath on in. And then let's find another spot. We'll just hit one more. Go ahead on down and do the same thing. And since you guys are savvy, you could think about lifting your left elbow toward the ceiling. It's going to get you a little bit on that inner shoulder blade on the right side, right? Back to center. And do the same thing on the other side. You kind of reach up. Again, we love to get super specific when we do the entirety of the upper back hydrate, but remember, it's all one piece. So we are going to help it out, but it's nice to just give it a little bit of attention. Come on back to center. And then get smaller and smaller. Tuck that pelvis, place it back down, curl forward in the ribs, and get a little shear in here. And wait. Now let's rinse it out. So get the knees over top of the ankles, take a breath on in. Make sure you're curled in the ribs, hips are low as you then push and steamroll down your spine. No need to curl further if you're already curled in the ribs at the beginning. Let's do that 2 more times. So get the knees over the ankles, breath on in. On the exhalation, think about sinking the hips, curling the ribs, and then pushing into your feet to steamroll down the spine. One more time, reset the feet. Knees on top of the ankles or a little bit over. Breath on in, hips are low, ribs are curled, push into the feet to steamroll down the spine, nice and slow. Awesome. And now I want you to come on down and we'll just decompress the neck. So let's just do a little behind the head, back of the head, and we'll decompress it. And then we got another sequence to do. Because I said so. So totally different from Wednesday because I took a wrong turn at Albuquerque. So for those of you who actually know Bugs Bunny, you know what I meant by that. Get smaller and smaller and wait. Let's half back it. So clam that top knee on up and you're a little bit more on the back of the head, but not quite 100% on the back of the head. Just dragging the flesh. The weight of the head is enough. And wait. And then roll on over to the other side, same thing. Making sure that you've outstretched that bottom arm. I like to do the circles. You can switch direction if you want to do that, but I mostly like to just kind of pin and drag. That to me is most effective. And wait. Let's half back it. Same thing. And wait. Now let's come all the way onto our back. Make sure we get that base of the skull. So I like to get my hair completely out of the way. And then I start to do my sideways figure eights, my Stevie Wonder in super slow motion, pinning and dragging, pinning and dragging, pinning and dragging, and wait. And let's move that roller a little bit higher up on our head. Have the face toward the ceiling, not hyperextending the neck. You want to put a little pressure of the head into the roller. Take a focused breath in, and on your exhalation, as if you're reaching the crown of the head away from you, the face nods down just a tiny bit. You're going to pause and take a breath into the back of that neck. Exhaling as you flip the face back up to the ceiling. Take a breath into the front of that throat. Exhale, reach the crown of the head away. Nod that face down, breath on in. Exhale as you float the face back on up, breath on in. One more time, exhale, reaching the crown of the head away, breath on into the back of the neck. Exhale, float the face back on up, breath into the front of the throat, and on the exhalation, lift the head on up and release the roller, come on down, and just notice your neck curve. Like right away, you're probably like, whoa, it's so nice and big. And then just do a little rest assess here. We got one more sequence, and then we're going to do our final rest assess. So just tune into where you were before we did that whole big Megillah. I took you through a big thing. So gosh, I have this lovely little pocket of space. I'm totally propped up on my butt cheeks. Yeah, my backs and thighs are there. I feel like my backs and thighs actually did come up a little bit, so that's interesting. If I turn my head from left to right, of course, noticing how some stress has left my neck, which is kind of fun. Interesting. Okay, so remember what that feels like. We're going to do one more sequence. So you're going to come lengthwise onto your roller and go immediately into your gentle rocking. Ugh. We're going to do the sequence I forgot to do earlier. Yay. So rocking from left to right. Just noticing how your abdomen contracts as you do this, rocking from left to right. It's like a subtle contraction, right? So I had you contact your core multiple times throughout this map. So you probably feel a nice little contraction autonomically happening. Come on back to a center point, hands on the pelvis. Let's do our tuck and tilt. Just seeing how this feels. If before you felt like your tuck and tilt, maybe your tuck and tilt is usually your differentiation is not so awesome. Maybe you're like, wow, I'm super stable in my ribs and I'm able to effortlessly tuck and tilt my pelvis, which is nice. Sometimes it feels like a total win to do differentiation at the end of a map. So find your middle. And then just take a couple of breaths into your body here with a sound. Shh. One more time with a sound. As you exhale, really noticing how the ribs just naturally deflate onto the roller. And as you get to the bottom, you get the sense of like a shrinky dink in between the hip bones. And then let it all go. And now let your natural exhalation go. Seeing if you can tap into that same subtle contraction toward the bottom of the breath. Where it feels like almost like the waist goes in, but the hips go wide. I don't know if that makes sense. Okay, so let's go ahead and cross our arms over our chest. We're gonna do a little rib curl. So you got differentiation in your pelvis. Make sure you're not tucked, you're not tilted, you're relaxed into your neutral. You have your arms crossed over your chest. You're gonna take a breath on in, and on the exhalation, it's as if you're pressing your arms into your chest to help you curl forward. Chin comes with you. You're gonna pause. You're gonna allow that pelvis to tuck, but then just untuck it. Sip of air on in, and on the exhalation, the entire torso goes toward the ceiling, and feel that tremble. Come on down. I'm gonna cue it again a little bit faster this time. Breath on in. On the exhalation, arms in, curl forward. Reset your pelvis. Sip of air on in as you then exhale and reach toward the ceiling with your torso. And then come on down, switch arms. Breath on in, on the exhalation, curling forward, resetting the pelvis. Sip of air on the exhalation, reach toward the ceiling. And down, last one. Breath on in, curl, reset, sip in, exhale toward the ceiling. Beautiful. Now, with that whole spirit in mind, I want you to take your right hand and place it behind your head. The palm or the forearm go onto the floor on the left side. Shoulders relaxed, okay? You're going to keep that shoulder relaxed behind you. It's just hanging out there. You're going to take a breath on in, and on the exhalation, I want you to curl forward in the ribs. This time, make sure the pelvis does not tuck. You want to keep it in a neutral, and you're going to pause, and then you're going to come down. So naturally, you're going to kind of go a little bit on an oblique angle here. Let's do it again. Breath on in. On the exhalation, you're just going to curl forward in the ribs. So if you're finding that you're pulling your chin into your chest, I want you to stop doing that. Come on down. And think about pushing the back of your head into your hands. 2 more. Breath on in. Exhale, curl forward. Tremble, tremble, and down. Last one. Breath on in. Think about bottom ribs stay heavy as you just curl the top one, stacking those ribs. Beautiful. Now, you're going to lift the left knee. Foot is slack to the butt cheek. If you bring that knee in too far, you're going to go into a tuck. We don't want that. So you're going to send that knee away so that you're in a neutral pelvis. Breath on in. On the exhalation, you're going to rib curl, but now you want to think about angling your right shoulder toward your left knee. You're going to pause. Don't tuck that pelvis. Reset it if you need to. Come on down. Let's do that 3 more times. Breath on in. Exhale. Rib curl on a diagonal. Don't twist the head. It's more of an idea than a thing. That it's less dramatic, but you are going on an oblique angle. Here we go. Exhale. Curling forward. Shoulder is trying to make connection with that opposite knee. Down. Last one, you're going to take a breath on in, exhale, you're going to curl forward. But this time you're going to stay here, you're going to untwist and extend that leg on out. And then you're going to bring the knee on in, you're going to think about curling forward on an oblique angle. You're going to stay up, untwist, extend that leg. 2 more. You're going to curl forward, untwist, extend that leg. Last one, knee comes in. Don't tuck that pelvis though. It's so hard. You want to try to curl and extend on out and then let it go. Let's do the other side. Okay, now left hand goes behind the head. You've got your palm or your forearm. I find that as we progress with the next sets, I do better with just my palm, but for now I'm okay with my forearm. Breath on in, on the exhalation, curl forward. So if you just think about doing basic rib curl, you're naturally going to start to drift on an angle because you have one arm on the side. 3 more times. Breath on in, exhale. Keep that pelvis neutral. Bottom ribs stay anchored as you just curl the top ribs, making sure you are not sticking your chin in your chest. Breath on in, exhale, curl forward. And the last one, exhale, curl forward. And you get that idea that you're starting to want to drift, right? You're finding that your left shoulder wants to drift to the other side. So let's make it happen. So you're going to bring that right knee on up, foot slack to the butt cheek, pelvis neutral, breath on in, exhale, curl forward. And now you can think about that shoulder trying to make its way over to the opposite knee without tucking your pelvis. Now's the time you want to start to think of getting on the palm of the hand. Breath on in, exhale, curl forward. Got that oblique angle. And back down. 2 more. Breath on in. Think about also the tongue on the roof of the mouth. Just turns off some neck muscles there. Last one here. Exhale, curling forward, but finding that oblique angle. You're going to stay up, but you're going to untwist, extend that leg on out. Now we're going to bring that knee in. You're going to curl. Don't tuck that pelvis. Unwind and straighten that leg out. 2 more. You're going to curl obliquely. You're going to unwind. Last one. We're going to curl obliquely. Keep that pelvis in a neutral. Unwind, hold it, and let it go. Holy Toledo. Let's do some gentle rocking here. We got a couple minutes. Let's do a little upper body length, shall we? Bring those arms up to the ceiling and let's do a little shoulder blade reach. So just notice your shoulder blades. Notice if they feel even gliding along the rib wall. We're not shrugging our shoulders. Our pelvis is relaxed and stable. Ribs are stable. The only thing moving are the shoulder blades. Give me one reach up and let the shoulder blades be heavy along the sides of the roller. And let's try a single arm reach. Right arm goes over the head, but you're going to pause before it goes past the forehead. And the left doesn't go below the hip. And then we switch, same thing. So the above arm does not go behind the head, pauses right about the forehead. So just go back and forth at your own pace. If you're finding you're having any snapping, cracking, popping, physical sounds, physical sensations or audible sounds, I want you to shorten the lever. So none of that stuff. You want to make it smaller, shorten your range of motion is what I meant to say. Let's try arm circles. Both arms go overhead and arc around at that same level above the torso, keeping in glenohumeral joint range of motion. So we did the prep to arm circles standing. Those circles go in an opposite direction. If you're thinking about it, we do it this way. It's just an easier pattern to learn this way. You could do it the opposite way, but it's a little trickier. Feels weird. So that's not how we teach it to people. I'm just doing this for fun for today. Okay, back up to that shoulder blade reach position. I want you, as if you've got a bunch of toffee in between your hands, you're going to pull it apart. And think about opening up those arms and go into double arm reach. So arms are above the torso. There's a slight bend in the elbow. The hands and fingers are wide, open wide. There's no curling in them, right? So once you're here, you could see your hands out of the corners of your eyes. I really want you to think, you're trying to reach. So as you think about reaching around a big tree, your shoulder blades are going to go away from the roller a little bit, and that's okay. Make some micro adjustments while you're here. I really want you to see if you can find that tension in the arms. Think about almost like you're trying to internally rotate the shoulders a little bit so that the biceps go toward the ceiling, but then you want to externally rotate the forearms. That's weird. It's perfect though. And then we're gonna floss the nerves by flexing and extending the wrists in opposition. Or maybe making a fist and doing that same thing, noticing that line of pull. And then open those hands wide again. Again, find that reach. And then from here, see if you can bring not just your palms, but also your forearms to the floor. And you're going to do the same thing, flexing and extending in opposition, flossing those nerves. We're making a fist and doing the same thing. And then opening those palms wide, putting them down onto the floor, floating the face up to the ceiling, taking a breath in. On the exhalation, I want you to gentle rock over to the right, pause, tip your nose over to the right. Ooh, line of pull, breath on in. Shh. Bring everything down. And then back to center. Same thing, opposite side. Left palm glued to the floor, gentle rock over, right palm glued, gentle rock over to the left, tip the nose to the left, breath on in, exhale and sink everything. Sink the ribs and the shoulders. Let the breath do it, right? Breath and gravity. Feeling that line of pull. Beautiful. Back to center. Give me a couple more gentle rocks here, and then extend a leg out in front of you onto the floor for your last assessment. Arms and legs extended. As we get on the floor here. Wow, what a difference a sequence makes, huh? Holy smokes. So the first thing I want to do is turn my head from left to right, because that really, really opened up my neck. It feels so much better. And then I'm going to go through those 4 common imbalances. So if before you felt like you were jacked up on your shoulder blades, now you feel below them, you feel like you've got more weight on the ribs. It feels like your shoulder girdle is just kind of spread out nicely and your shoulders are relaxed. You're more on the backs of the knuckles. Good for you. Number 2, the diaphragm. Notice if now you feel that small pocket of space. Number 3, notice if you're more on butt cheeks instead of bone. I am. And then number 4, notice those backs of thighs. Mine totally came down from that last sequence. And then I always like to notice if I'm on the outer 1/3 portion of my calves and my heels. And then draw that imaginary line down your center again, noticing if you're more even. Yep, I got that one. And then let's take a nice breath into our body. Just noticing how the ribs move. Some big sequences. Nice. Give yourself some thanks and gratitude. And then roll into your side. Come on up to sitting. Get some water in you. And if you want to go ahead and unmute and let's talk about this map that we just did. A little bit different than what I did last time. I'm gonna have to rewrite it. How'd that go?
Big changes, marvelous.
Yeah, good. Tony, what'd you think? Because you were there on Wednesday. A lot different, huh?
Lot different and also just huge changes.
So we
Yeah,
preferred this one, huh? That
wonderful.
was a happy accident, right? That I screwed that up. I like looked over. I was like, oh, I forgot to do rebalance of rib curl, no oblique rib curl. I was like, oh, I'll do it later. So I did get my seated compression in, right? I didn't get it last time, but I better put it down on the board before I forget so that I can write it out better when I write it out when I send the recording. So how do we do those standing sequences?
I was amazed at how much difference I could tell in my releve after doing all of the shoulder work.
Oh yeah?
Yeah. I mean, it just was effortless.
Isn't that amazing?
Yeah.
Yeah, it just goes to show you that where everyone's like, oh, my shoulders. It's like, no, your shoulders are going to also alter your balance. Because if your shoulder girdle is all hunched forward, everything gets screwed up. The masses are not balanced. So just that little bit makes a big difference.
Yeah, it was wonderful.
All right, how did I do this? We did, now I got to remember, I got to write it down so you guys are with me, so remember. We did, after we came down on the floor, we did rest reassess, and then we did inner thigh, right? Is that what we did? Inner thigh,
Yeah.
glide and shear. We did inner thigh lift.
I left.
That was a good sequence, right?
Yeah.
And then we did back of thigh, calf. We rinsed it. We didn't do that last time. Last time I put the roller under the pelvis, didn't I?
Yeah.
So hang on. I forgot to plug in my power. Thank God my computer didn't die in the middle of class. And then we rinsed. Then I had you do seated compression, right?
Yeah.
And then we did upper back, glide, shear, rinse. And then we did neck release. Wow. And only then did I have you do a rest reassess. I love it. That was a fun map. It was fun and unexpected. Let's see. And then how did we finish? We did the whole rebalance
Double arms.
with rib curl, oblique rib curl, and upper body length. Lovely. That was awesome. Any questions on any of the moves we did that are not clear as far as the cueing, positioning, setup? Because yeah, monster sidestep, all of that. Anything?
Arm floats. Talk about the positioning of the hand, like thumb, when you're going like instead of this or this.
Yeah, well, you're thinking about once you start getting into arm circles, then that
Yeah.
changes a little bit. But as far as you're doing when you're going from, here to 90, it's really just knuckles toward the ceiling, right? That's it. Elbows facing the back wall. Once you start going up to 180, then you start having the thumb lead the motion. And then once you get up top, then it's the back of the hand comes down the front, right? So so if you're doing it just without a band, right? If you're doing it without a band, it's like thumbs come up and then it all comes down this way.
Okay.
Right? So that's kind
This
of the idea.
thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up.
Yeah, thumbs and then back of the knuckles.
But that's just for the circumduction part of it.
Yep,
Which
that's
is-
just your circumduction. But when you're just doing shoulder floats, you could just think about it's just just knuckles are going up. But then again, once we start getting into the whole thing and then you go from here and you're going on up, then it's like the thumb. So it's like knuckle up to thumb and then it's over to the center and down, right? It's this. But if you want to know why it's that way and can it be any other way, then just try turning your arms a different direction. Try doing the same thing, and you can't because your humerus rolls inward and you can't move in the socket that way, right? So it's got to be externally rotated. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So I want to think about that external rotation. Oh, goodbye. Elizabeth left. Okay. I hope she was okay. She was the one person I wanted to hear the most from. So I think she was struggling on some of those moves. Yeah, so does that clarify a little bit, Patricia? Yeah, okay. How do we do an inner thigh lift? Oh, bye, Wendy, you gotta go? Okay, love. How'd that go as far as the cueing for the lift? Did that, and getting into that initial position? That was okay? That worked okay for you guys? All right, and we did okay with rib curl, oblique rib curl? Those cues worked for you too? Okay. That's it. Awesome. Next week, I'll incorporate some level 5. Any move in particular you want me to do? I already know what you're going to say, but go ahead and tell me. What level 5 move do you want to do next week?
I'm fine with anything.
Come on, Patricia, I know what you got.
The side lift, I forget what it's called, you know, the roller at this positioning, this one.
Oh, the
What's it called?
it's called the assisted side plank.
Yeah,
I don't know
okay.
why that was hard to figure out. It's like,
Let's do that one again.
okay, all right.
And hip hero.
Side
I
hip
like that
hero.
one.
Yep, okay. Okay, so we'll do you want to do hover and lunge? Should we do
Hover
hover and lunge?
lunges. Oh yeah, that would be really good. Let's do that one because we don't do that
Ooh.
kind of stuff.
Let's fry the lower body. We'll do hover and lunge, side hip hero, plie squat. Ugh. You guys are gonna hate me by the end of that. Do you want me to do it bang, 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 or you want me to tuck in some upper body in between that to lessen the go lower, upper,
I
lower,
think
upper?
tuck in some upper body.
Okay, so I'll do upper, lower, upper, lower. We'll do it that way.
So it ends up being whole body.
Okay.
Yeah.
Whole body standing. Yay. And then we'll do a nice little cool down. Groovy. So yeah, we'll come down. We'll do a bunch of
more?
core.
The one where you lift up your leg. I like this one. I think it's really good. Plus you can throw in front of thigh glide and shear, you know, the lifting.
Yes.
Straight leg lift?
Straight leg extension. Straight leg extension.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
that
need to
one.
do that too. Or not straight, single leg lift. Whatever it's called.
Yeah.
Straight leg lift. I know they all sound so
Okay,
similar.
straight leg lift. That's
Straight
what
leg
it is.
lift. Yeah, because I need to do that too for my knees. All right, perfect. Yay. Big, massive monster map next week. Bring your costumes. We'll pretend it's Halloween. Okay, kids. I'll see you next week.
Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend.
You too. Bye bye.
Bye.